What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be comparing the Kar98 with the Swiss. So after the most recent patch, they increased the bullet velocity of the Swiss by quite a bit, which was really the only thing that was holding it back before. So we're going to go through and compare the two, and I'm going to hopefully give you an answer on which one I think is now the current best aggressive sniper. So for, 150 meters and in, just playing really aggressively, quick ADS, good damage. We're gonna go through everything: damage, range, bullet velocity, reload time, everything. But as always, if you guys like the content, consider dropping that like, comment, and sub. Helps us grow. Keep doing what we're doing and keep the website up. But let's jump into it, and we will talk about the Kar98 and the Swiss. All right, quickly, let's show what they said they changed. So in the patch notes, they say they changed the base reticle, which it used to be white, now it's black. I don't know, small change. And then they say they improved the functionality. I don't know what that means. It doesn't look any different to me. But the big buff was down here. Combat recon barrels for snipers were all changed up. So the Swiss K31 went from 43% increase to 50% increase. So this brings the bullet velocity basically in line with the Kar98. So we'll go look at those numbers and talk about damage profiles and everything as well. But first, we're going to talk about flinch. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is flinch. Flinch is something in the past that I thought was not very important. And now that I have more hours in the game and more experience with snipers with a lot of flinch, I will fully admit that I was completely wrong about that, and it's actually really important, especially for aggressive snipers. So I went in and compared a Kar98 meta build to the Swiss meta build, which we'll talk about. This does actually have the airborne elastic wrap, so it does have that flinch resistance. And it's really, really hard to tell, but I do think it actually does help with flinch a little bit. So let's just watch this video. For some reason, the videos came out really low quality, which is really annoying, but you can still kind of get the idea of flinch from this. So let's watch this. We get the Kar98 on the left and the Swiss on the right. This is slowed down to 25% speed. And honestly, they're very similar. It looks to me maybe like the Swiss even has a little bit less flinch than the Kar. But again, it's super hard because I was getting shot at different rates here, so it's just really hard to tell. But they both have very, very low flinch, especially compared to the other Cold War snipers. Let's watch it one more time. Watch it full speed here. Both of them have very, very little flinch. Very easy to hit your shots even while you're being shot, which is super important if you're going to be running an aggressive sniper. All right, so I'm not going to look at all the stats on here, just a couple. The ones that are up to date and correct would be the fire rate. So the Swiss and the Kar98 are similar in fire rate. Swiss shoots slightly slower, 42 RPM instead of 44. And then bullet velocities. With that new change to the barrel, the Swiss is basically the same as the Kar98 in terms of bullet velocity, which is kind of where it should be. Because overall, we'll see when we look at the rest of the numbers, the ADS times are a little bit worse on the Swiss. But it does more damage, so we're going to talk about that. But obviously, reload time, this is not the correct reload time for the Swiss. I haven't updated this yet, but the Swiss has a full 5-round mag reload instantly, whereas Kar98 is one at a time, so your reload times will be way better on the Swiss, which is a big plus. But with the Kar98, you can load one bullet pretty quick if you need to hit a follow-up shot, so that's one benefit to the way the Kar98 works. If we go look at the base stats, this is one of the big benefits of the Swiss. So it shows the damage drop off on the website, but that's just because of how it's programmed. It has to have one, something we just haven't taken the time to fix. But there's no damage drop off for the Swiss. There's also no damage drop off for the Kar98. But if you look at this, the Swiss does 180 to the chest, which is a ton. It's the most of any sniper to the chest. It does 104 to the stomach and then 83 to extremities. So obviously they're both one-shot headshots, so I'm not going to talk about that. But the extra damage to the chest and stomach that the Swiss does over the Kar98 is a nice, really nice benefit for the Swiss. So it's just something to keep in mind. Not everybody hits headshots all the time, obviously. Even the best players in the world don't always hit headshots. So if you miss that shot and you do an extra 30 damage with a chest shot, that's pretty significant and something worth considering. So I'm going to go into a game here and show you guys what the aiming stability looks like between these two, but I'll tell you right now, the Swiss has very, very good aiming stability by default. So this is what I consider the meta build for the Swiss. Would be Grew Suppressor, Combat Recon Barrel, 5 milliwatt laser, Bruiser Grip for the aiming stability, which it does actually help with aiming stability, Airborne Elastic Wrap for ADS time, flinch resistance, and aiming stability. These are all great things to have for a sniper rifle. So that's what I would consider the meta for the Swiss. And then for the Kar98, I'm going to show the standard meta build. I'll show both the aiming stability stock and the aim down sight speed stock, just so you can get a comparison there. But I'll start with the aim down sight speed stock, because that's what most people use to get the fastest ADS times. Quickly, as the game's starting here, some people recommend using the regular sound moderator, regular suppressor for the Swiss, and I don't like that. It's going to give you better ADS times, and it still helps with bullet velocity a little bit, but having bullet velocity down at like 900 is really, really low, and I just think it's worth it to go to the GRU suppressor personally. But if you think the sound moderator feels good for you, then by all means use it. It's just my opinion. I would always use the GRU suppressor. All right, so I find aiming stability to be something that's really important. I've talked about this a lot in the past. Basically, when you scope in, if you're trying to do a quick snipe, if you have really high aiming stability, then you always scope in right where you expect to. So with the aiming stability stock on the Kar98, obviously you get much better aiming stability. So scoping in, you're much more close to where you thought you were. So this is the aim down sight speed stock on the Kar98 right here, and we're going to compare it to the Swiss, and then I'll also compare it to the aiming stability stock. So you see how when I scope in, I'm not on the center where I'd expect to be. That's something that's always been hard for me, and to me, I like good aiming stability. But what we're going to do is line this up, let it sway around a little bit, and then we'll compare it to the Swiss. So this is basically going out to the edge of the orange ring at its max. Then if we switch over to the Swiss, you'll see the Swiss with the bruiser grip and the airborne elastic wrap has almost no aim sway, like super slow, super minimal aim sway, which is awesome for aggressive snipers. And you also notice that it has more zoom. So if you compare this is a Kar98 sniper scope to the default Swiss scope. Swiss has much more zoom, which some people like, some people don't like, but I think overall probably a good thing. Having more zoom, really good sight picture. So let's jump over and grab the other Kar98. So this is a Kar98 with the aiming stability stock. So this should be a lot better than what we just saw. And we'll compare the two again. So put it in the center. Let it sway. So this looks pretty similar to the Swiss when you have the aiming stability stock on there, which makes sense. We're going to jump over to the numbers after this, and you'll see the ADS time with the aiming stability stock is similar to the ADS time on the Swiss. The Swiss is still slower, but the magnitude's about the same. I'd say the Swiss is definitely slower though, which is better. Slower is always better with aim sway. All right, so this is what I keep talking about. I want to go over the direct comparison of the things I think are the most important for an aggressive sniper. So I've got damage profile, flinch, bullet velocity, bullet drop, ADS time, aim sway, and zoom. So damage profile, talked about this already. Kar98 has a good damage profile, but the Swiss damage profile is just better. Does more damage. Only on extremities does the Kar do more, and it's like 4 damage. Whereas on the Swiss, you get like almost an extra 30 damage to the chest, which is pretty significant. 180 damage to the chest for the Swiss, which is just a ton. And as I showed in the video, I think it's too close to call a winner in flinch. They're both really good in flinch. I mean, they're the best snipers for flinch, both of them. As far as bullet velocity, they're very similar now when you use the GRU suppressor. If you use the regular suppressor, you're down at 900 on the Swiss, which is pretty slow. I just would not recommend that. I don't think it's worth it for the benefits that you get over the GRU suppressor, but these are basically the same. I mean, that's not something you're ever going to notice a difference there. Bullet drop's proportional, so proportional to bullet velocity in this case. It's not always in Warzone, but in this case it is. So highest bullet velocities are going to have the lowest bullet drop. ADS time. So the Kar98 with the ADS stock gets down to 356 milliseconds, which is really fast. With the aiming stability stock on the Kar98, it's 397, which is still faster than the Swiss with the GRU suppressor. So this is what I was talking about. I think you get slightly better aiming stability with the GRU suppressor Swiss, but your ADS times are slightly worse than even the aiming stability stock Kar98. And speaking of aim sway, the Swiss has the best aim sway. I think it's just almost none. It's so slow that it's almost not there. Kar98 with the aiming stability stock is very close, but it just moves quite a bit faster. And then ADS stock has a lot more aim sway overall. I didn't color code the zoom because I think it depends on the situation, which zoom you want, which zoom's better. In most cases, I think the most zoom's going to be better. So if that's the case for you, then the Swiss would have more zoom and be better. Obviously, Kar98 just has a little bit less zoom. You could also put the variable zoom scope on the Kar98, which would get you very close to the Swiss zoom on the high zoom. But that can be really annoying because sometimes you can have you can sometimes be zoomed in when you want to be zoomed out, and you have to change it before you can take your shot, and it's just can be a mess. But if you just set it and forget and never drop your weapon and it doesn't reset, then you're good with the variable zoom scope. But overall, Swiss has a little bit more zoom, so it's kind of like the Swiss has better aim sway, slightly worse ADS time, better damage profile, same bullet velocity. So for me personally, I think this new grease suppressor Swiss build that I showed, I think it's better than the Kar98, and I will be using it over the Kar98 from now on. All right, everybody, that's all I'm going to cover today. I got a bunch more videos coming in the next few days, so there'll be a lot of information coming out. I'm going to get all the new attachments updated on the website, probably within the next few days as well. We're working really hard on everything right now. I'm back being focused on everything, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it informative. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.